Welcome to All About Art. My name is Alexandra, and I'm an art historian, curator, and writer. Within this podcast, topics relating to art history, cultural policy, the art sector, as well as a large range of other art-related topics will be covered. Conducting critical discussions, having entertaining exchanges, or just enjoying some relaxing chats, All About Art is where you'll find it all. Join me in exploring and developing cultural discourse. Hello, everyone. It has been a while since I've done an art news analysis, and that is because I was finishing my degree and wasn't really keeping up with the news myself. So now it's time to catch up on all that was missed and to chat about what happened in the recent months. I'm going to be covering July all the way up to October. The last one I did was for May, so I want to start off by chatting about what happened over the summer, and then we'll get into the more recent months. Something really wonderful was announced in July, and it was which artworks were going to be placed up on the Fourth Plinth in London. For those who don't know what the Fourth Plinth is, it is one of the world's most well-known public art commissions. It's an opportunity for contemporary artists to show an artwork on the fourth large plinth on Trafalgar Square in London, right in front of the National Gallery. Great placement. Every 2 years, a new artwork is unveiled and can be viewed by the public at all hours. One really cool thing about it is, as a member of the public, you can go in to the National Gallery and view the miniature models of these shortlisted submissions and then cast your vote as to which one should be displayed. In July, the works for 2022 and 2024 were announced. In 2022, a sculpture by the artist Samson Kambalu will be shown. It's based on a 1914 photograph of the preacher John Chilembwe, a hero of African independence, and the English missionary John Joule. This is really exciting. However, I'm particularly excited for 2024 because the work by Mexican artist Teresa Margolles will be shown, and that is the piece that I voted for. She's a conceptual artist, photographer, videographer, and performance artist. Her works look at the social and aesthetic dimensions of conflict. She creates sculptural installations, photographs, films, and performances imbued with material traces of death. I will read the description of her work, which is in part really what made me choose the piece over others. And I quote, "Teresa Margolles' sculpture features casts of the faces of 850 trans people, most of whom are sex workers. She works closely with this marginalized community that sometimes is unable to access social care. The casts will be arranged around the plinth in the form of a champantli, a skull rack from Mesoamerican civilizations. For those who may not be aware, Mesoamerica is an area covering central Mexico to northern Costa Rica. It was used to display the remains of war captives or sacrifice victims. The casts will be created together with trans communities. Plaster will be applied directly onto their faces. As such, not only will their features be recorded, the material will also become infused with their hair and skin cells. London's weather means that the work will inevitably deteriorate and fade away, leaving a kind of anti-monument behind. This will continue to command attention and put a spotlight on participants whose lives are often overlooked." I think it's pretty clear why I chose to pick this. I feel like it's a very moving work of art, and I particularly enjoy the concept of an anti-monument left behind on the Fourth Plinth, considering everything that has happened in the past 1 to 2 years regarding monuments and questioning who actually should be permanently put into stone or bronze or whatever else. Now, as positive as the news of the Fourth Plinth is, something negative happened in July as well. A few months prior, the government made a decision to cut higher education funding for art subjects in half, and no one was happy about it. These cuts were signed off in the middle of July, and it means that creative and art subjects will receive 50% less funding. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I fully agree with Turner Prize winner Helen, who says that this decision is walking us back 60 years. And it also brings a good point that this will make the arts a pursuit for the rich more than it already is. This will not only discourage more people from engaging with the arts, which is already difficult as it is because of the lack of encouragement from an educational standpoint, But also, it will prevent people from going into the arts professionally because you can't make a living, which is a huge hit to the sector. I shouldn't overgeneralize and say that you can't make a living, but when funding is cut in arts education, it makes it so much harder. It's a decision that focuses less on the human condition, on everything that makes us who we are, and instead it shows a focus on purely capitalistic pursuits, which I find atrocious. But hey, that's just me. At least go and check out Helen Cammock's work on the underground. They launched on July 28th, and they're in the form of posters across various tube stations, such as Aldgate East, Charing Cross, and a couple of others. I have put the link in the podcast description if you want to go see if your local tube station is where her artwork is featured. If it's your area, keep an eye out. Moving on to August, but still staying on the theme of decreased funding, there has been a little argument between a donor and the Tate Modern in London. Barry Joule, a friend of esteemed artist Francis Bacon, had planned to donate over 1,200 works and documents from Bacon's studio to the Tate. The donor is now threatening to rescind his offer because he is unhappy with the fact that there has not been an exhibition to, quote unquote, do it justice. He is even threatening legal action. However, a follow-up from this in September stated that the Francis Bacon estate is actually disputing the authenticity of a lot of the works in Barry Joule's archive of Bacon's work. Either way, it's quite interesting, and I'm really eager to see how this pans out. Interestingly enough, the Musée Picasso in Paris accepted a donation of 80 Bacon drawings back in the early 2000s. With that came a statement that, quote, Bacon began to paint in around 1930, inspired by a Picasso exhibition. Barry Joule also said, all the donated drawings were exhibited in a large Bacon Picasso painting exhibition held at the Musée Picasso in 2005. He said that the museum published a handsome separate catalog and that the exhibition was a huge success. And as a result of this, 2 years later, the French government awarded him a highly sought-after award, the French equivalent of knighthood. At least, that's what the article said. He added in, and I quote, in 2008, the Tate held a large Bacon exhibition. Not a single item from my 2004 Tate donation was included. If he withdraws the Tate gift, he will donate it instead to the French Museum. I mean, not to be overly critical here, but this sounds slightly sketchy, and it also sounds like Joule is being a bit of a brat. It's so important to him that the government awarded him this knighthood or whatever, and for what? For allegedly knowing an artist? For having some of his artworks? I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying the situation, and I'm siding with the institution, because I do understand why someone would get impatient, and there is a lot that we don't know about these types of relationships and donations unless you've really worked in that area before. But just having faith in Tate as an institution and Maria Balshaw as the director, I have to say that their hesitation, coupled with what seems to be a bit of a frantic desperation that is showing through Jules's behavior, puts a little bit of doubt in my mind. Something else on this point that I read was that of the almost 500 new acquisitions made last year by Tate, 223, so nearly half, were privately organized and did not involve the Arts Council scheme, which is a scheme where the wealthy can donate art with a percentage of the value offset against tax. Stated in an article in The Guardian, one common practice is for commercial art galleries to insist that if a collector wants to buy works by an up-and-coming artist, they should also buy a second for a museum, because putting a work within an institution raises the prestige, and with that, the monetary value of the artist and their works. This means that museums are subjected to the control of the art market and of the wealthy players within it. Surprise, surprise. One former salesperson of one of London's biggest art galleries gave a quote within the article, and they said, if the museum doesn't take the artwork when offered, they risk losing vital funding and support from a patron. It's not how the whole system works, but museums do risk being dictated by opportunists, and it will happen more as funding declines for the arts. So, can we revisit that plan to cut funding in arts education, please? Anyway, on to September. And it is with a little bit of art market news. The world-renowned auction house Sotheby's, my current employer, has scored the collection of Harry and Linda Macklowe. The Macklowes are developers in New York, and they are divorcing. For those who don't know, in the auction world, the 3 Ds are the main reasons why property gets sold. These are death, divorce, and debt. So it looks like it fits into this situation. It is wonderful that they built up such an amazing collection over the time of their marriage, as it will include works by Cy Twombly, Mark Rothko, Andy Warhol, and Alberto Giacometti. Those will be among the 65 works from the Macklow's holdings offered in 2 separate sales in New York. The first being in November, coming up this year, and the second will be in May 2022. The jaw-dropping thing about it is that the collection is estimated to be in excess of $600 million. Let's just take a deep breath there. I would actually love to go to New York just to see the collection on view. For those of you who aren't aware, Sotheby's exhibits lots in their sales before the sales happen, so you can go and view them free of charge. Just check on the website for the exhibition times, which you can find when you click on auction details. I know this sounds like a plug, but I promise it's not. I just want to give people the knowledge that they can always enter these spaces, especially when phenomenal pieces are on view to the public. And I want people to take advantage of that. On to October, and I will just mention a few highlights as well because this may be getting a bit long. I'll start with a throwback story time to 2018 when I had been working at Sotheby's for just under a year part-time in the client services department while doing my undergrad. I was ushering in the sale room of the Contemporary Art Evening Sale, meaning that I was showing people to their seats, saying hello, answering general questions, the works. The last lot of the sale came up, Banksy's Girl with a Balloon. And as the hammer fell at £1 million, the artwork started to shred itself. I remember everyone rushing towards the artwork to get a better look or to snap a photo. And I had no idea what was going on other than that we needed to make sure to calm the commotion. It was later revealed that it was a stunt by the artist and that they had intended for it to shred all the way through. Instead, it only shred halfway and remained hanging, albeit slightly out of the frame, but still very much able to be put on the wall. What a good coincidence. Very sellable. Fast forward to 2021, and the same artwork by Banksy, now renamed Love is in the Bin, came back to the auction block. And guess how much it sold for? A whopping £16 million. Hammer price, which is absolutely astonishing. Actually, I shouldn't say that it's the same work, just with a different title, because honestly, it is so much more than that. It's a piece of art history. It's the embodiment of a performance piece, and it's both the old piece and the new one altogether. It went from being a piece that had been created in one phase with the artist and their paint, to being a multi-process artwork with many different phases and conditions. It's not only interesting from a pop culture point of view and the fact that it went viral, but with art historical theory, there is a lot to talk about. In that sale, a lot of young artists smash auction records too. I'm referring to the most recent contemporary art auction, which was really amazing to see. Just a little art market trend snippet there for you. The final news story of the episode, judging by the fact that these art news episodes have been following the repatriation of the Benin Bronzes a little bit, I had to talk about the fact that Jesus College at Cambridge University became the first UK institution to return looted Benin Bronzes to Nigeria. There was a live-streamed handover ceremony where legal documents were signed and a bronze cockerel called okukor was returned. It had been donated in 1905 by the father of a student of the college, And after a campaign by the students and an investigation into the college's historic ties to slavery and its colonial past, researchers came to the conclusion that the bronze had been looted directly from the royal court of Benin. As I have mentioned in previous episodes, but will briefly say again, Benin was a kingdom that was later absorbed into Nigeria, and in the late 19th century, it was a stop on an exhibition by British colonial forces. This is all mentioned in the article, all of which I always link in the show notes in case you want to have a read yourself. Something else that I have mentioned before is that the British Museum holds around 900 pieces from the Kingdom of Benin, and it is currently the world's largest single collection of the artifacts. They are apparently prohibited from removing them permanently from their collection, as the article that I read state that it's literally under a 1963 UK law, which I find absolutely ridiculous, to be completely honest with you. I mean, we live in the 21st century. Why don't we amend things accordingly when we have new information? Or, I mean, it's not really new information, but I guess when we evolve as a society and decide that maybe the way that history has been told isn't really how it went down, and it's a very Eurocentric white way of looking at things. So shouldn't we be adjusting the legal system? If you're a lawyer and listening in, do tell me what this law is and why the hell the British Museum can't give back those damn bronzes. I'm really intrigued. I'm sure that it's such a complex situation. However, I don't think that it's so complex that other institutions are able to find solutions on how to repatriate the objects, and the British Museum, a world-renowned institution, seems to be having difficulties. But that concludes today's All About Art episode for the art news analysis of basically the whole second half of 2021. Let me know what you think. Will you be going to the Trafalgar Square to see the new Fourth Plinth commissions? And maybe we should take bets on when the British Museum will give back the Benin Bronzes. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. And that is it for today on All About Art. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating or a review, as it helps more people discover the show. Also, feel free to share with your friends, or if you share on social media, tag me and get in touch. Thank you so much for listening.